Welcome back. Let's talk about the law as far as the rule of law is concerned in Nigeria. Kemini Udim is a legal practitioner joining us virtually. Ms. Udim, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I think my first question will pander around how important it is for the role. I think we have a lot of, especially those of us who are not lawyers, have a lot of expectation and assumption as to the importance of the role of the judiciary in stabilizing democracy. And so that's why when perhaps the people don't see things being done the way they expect it to be done, they react. So I'll give you an example. For instance, now, this controversial issue, I think this month the governor of Rivers State is going to be reinstated by the president after he was suspended by the president and the members of the assembly. The debate whether he has that powers is still a contentious issue. So PDP governors went to court to say the president doesn't have that power. In fact, help us interpret, does he have that power? We were thinking that by now, that issue would have been brought to rest. I remember we had Professor Wole Soyinka here, who also alluded to the fact that once and for all, let's just resolve this issue so that we don't go back and forth. But the Supreme Court has been quiet. We don't know what is going on. The suspension is about to elapse. Perhaps this, I only remember that there was a time Nyesom Wike, for instance, as part of his condition to the PDP and the governors, who said they should withdraw that case. I don't know whether it was withdrawn to the best of my knowledge. We can come to the issue of Lagos State last year, where some parts of the laws, the electoral acts were breached and they were taken to court. They've argued on their own, but that case has been adjourned to February next year. We could go on, but these are just the quick cases. So this is what raises questions in the mind of people as to the role of the judiciary and their ability to brave up to do its work when the issues are before them and not to pander, allege, to whims and caprices. But help us make sense of the situation.
Well, thank you so much for having me. The judiciary remains a very important institution in any democracy. In fact, during military rule, you would recall that every other aspect of government, every other institution of government was suspended, but the judiciary was never suspended. And that tells a whole lot about the place of the judiciary. Remember that before now, society was governed by emperors. And the emperor was the legislature, was the executive, and was also the judiciary. And so if the emperor said, I don't like your face, that was the end of that person, and the person stood executed. And Jean Montesquieu, came up with the theory of separation of powers, and then spoke about the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, and gave that specific role to the judiciary, the role of interpretation of the laws and putting the other arms of government, within checks and balances. And the Nigerian judiciary has been doing this, for many years now. Judiciary has been there, one of the oldest institutions in Nigeria, right from colonial time till today. The judiciary is still there. In section 6 of the Constitution, you also see the judiciary clearly being provided for. But I agree with you regarding the cases you just reeled out, the concerns of Nigerian citizens about the speed in the delivery of judgments, the delivery of justice in Nigeria. Every lawyer that goes to court would want his matter to be decided as quickly as possible. But sadly, and this is very sad, most of the cases filed in this country are not decided as quickly as they would have been decided. And I think this is worrisome. I think that a situation where cases stay in court until they become academic. For instance, you mentioned the River State matter. River State matter, 6 months ago, a sole administrator was appointed and then sent to River State. People went to court challenging that. The governors of the PDP in particular went up to the apex court challenging that. One would have expected that matter, because it's a constitutional matter, because it's a matter that needs to be decided, to lay the precedent. One would have expected that it would be decided before this time. And I think on the 18th of this month, the sole administrator's 6 months would have expired. And when that happens, it therefore means that that case stands the risk of becoming an academic matter. And a matter is academic when it has no no useful value anymore. Yes, it can still be decided by the Supreme Court, but basically it will now be for the classroom. I think that our cases should be decided as quickly as possible so as for people to know their fate and so as for our democracy to, to be strengthened by the decisions of courts of law in this country.
Okay, so as a matter of fact, the reason why this is important is because there's a lot of hope. When we hear of issues around, because we're not just going to dwell around the political issues alone. We're going to talk about several other issues. I've had a senior advocate of Nigeria talk about them being overburdened, then them even being under duress in some situations to make certain decisions. Then there is a corruption element. Then there are people that stand on their ground and they are being opposed from. So there are different slants and different angles. So the issues around the role of the judiciary in ensuring. But there seems to be a general crisis of confidence wherever you look within our institutions, judiciary not excluded. So for you, what are because when this Chief Justice of Nigeria was appointed, Justice Kekereekun was appointed, female, no nonsense, there were loads of expectations. She's done quite some things because we can remember some people have been forcefully retired. There's been reprimand, demotions, suspension from promotion. So we've seen some movement that has sent signals to some of the excesses by members of the bench. We're going to come to your members, who are the members of the bar, in just a moment. But what do you think can be done to really send, more like what happened with the economy, the shock wave that the policy of government sent to the economy that all of us are feeling till today and tomorrow? What can be done in the judiciary to really transform and rebuild the confidence in that sector? Because some people don't trust the judiciary. In fact, if some people have cases, they just say they're going to court. They're not interested anymore because they feel that time, adjournment, and all of that is going to be a waste of their time for some.
Well, a whole lot needs to be done because a whole lot is wrong with the justice system in Nigeria. When you look at infrastructure in the courts in this country, in fact, you would be thanking judges so much for adjudicating matters, in most of the court halls in this country. Now, when you look at the legislature, you look at the executive, these two arms of government appear to enjoy so much of introduction of technology. But the judicial arm of government is still one arm of government that is still far away from technology. Most judges still write in longhand in this country. And when that happens, as you are talking, the judge is writing. I've been a lawyer for close to 2 decades now, and I have been in courts like every other day, up to the highest court in this land. And I can say that most of our courts, judges are still writing in longhand. So as you are talking, the judges are writing, and as you are flowing, the judge is breaking the flow and saying, "Counsel, do you know I'm writing?" And you have to stop for the judge to write. And this delays the adjudication of matters. And I think that proper budgetary provisions need to be given to the judiciary in every budget, be it of the federal or of the states of the federation. And I also think that there should be judicial autonomy. If the money is appropriated in the budget and then released directly to the heads of the courts in this country, I'm sure perhaps they would have been able to fix the things that should be fixed. Technology should be the least that we should expect from the courts, in the 21st century. Now, we also look at the issue of the number of justices. The Constitution of Nigeria has given a limit. I think it is 22, not above 22 justices in the Supreme Court. And we've never had the full complement of that court, except during this administration where His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu had to send names to the National Assembly for approval, and we now have the full complement of the judiciary, of the Supreme Court. But then 22 is still a far cry. This is a country that has not less than 200 million people. Cases come from all over the country to the Supreme Court, with only 22 persons sitting to hear these cases. I think that there is need for constitutional amendments so that we can increase the number from 22 and then take it up to 50, and let it be such that we can have the Supreme Court sit in 3 court halls concurrently. Every day, the court number 1, court number 2, court number 3, you have full complement of the justices of the court sitting. And in such situation, then cases will be decided, with the speed that it is expected. Now, you remember that Simon Ekpa was arrested a few months back, and just a few days ago, judgment has been delivered in his matter in Finland. He knows his fate. If Simon were to be arrested in Nigeria, I find it difficult to see if Simon would have been, fully tried within this few period of time. I mean, these few months that he was arrested, Simon would have still been maybe in the DSS custody, would have been going to court, adjournment would have been coming every now and then. The judge would have been writing in longhand and so on. So this is what we need to bring into the justice system of Nigeria: speed in trial of cases. And I think that when these things are done, the confidence will be restored to the judicial system. We also need to look at the issue of appointment of judicial officers. Let's keep it open. Let's make it accessible. Let's make it available for every qualified citizen of this country. Let us not allow politics to take the center stage. Let it be for those that are qualified and are ready to also do the work. You have seen lots of persons that have been made judicial officers, and they don't really have, that determination to do the work. So what am I talking about here? Let us keep the process of recruitment of judicial officers very open, very transparent, make it available for every citizen of the country that is duly qualified by the Constitution. And I think that if this is done and other things are added to the justice system in this country, I'm sure we can have, because we have so many judges that are ready to work. If they are given the enablement to work, the environment that is suitable for the work, I am sure that most of the cases that get delayed today in our courts would have been able to enjoy the speed that is needed. When you have a financial matter, for instance, that goes to the courts, and it takes 10 years to decide the financial matter, when it went to the courts, naira and dollar was 84 naira to $1. And how much is a dollar today to naira? So there is need for speed in the justice system so that truly the justice system, the judiciary, would be the hope, the last hope of the common man in this country.
Well, Mr. Kimeni, I recall that Justice John Soho recently said that the Nigerian judiciary is on trial for inefficiency and issues around corruption, but he expressed some optimism. And I wonder for you if you also share that, of those sentiments, because for a lot of people, they have termed this go to court. There's a saying now, go to court, and they just think going to court means you might not get justice. And this is an image that is being reinforced in the minds of a lot of people. Once they think about going to court, they remember the go to court statements that were made, and they're like, will we really get justice? So in terms of image, there's a lot that needs to be done. We're just talking about the image of the police and how, more work needs to be done naturally. So for the judiciary as well, there is that perception issue. Do you see that? And how do you think the judiciary can come back from this? Because that's really vital.
Yeah, I am confident that the judiciary can regain its image, 100% in this country. All we need to do is to do the right things that should be done for the confidence to be restored. I cannot blame any citizen of the country who cries out to say that this matter has been in court for 10 years, for 5 years, for 3 years or so. You cannot also blame a citizen of the country that is quarreling with the image of the judiciary. What the judiciary needs to do is to ensure that the image of the judiciary is restored in full so that citizens of the country will have that confidence. What do I mean? Let matters be decided with the speed of light, so to say. It doesn't make sense that the matter is filed in court today and it takes 5 years to decide the matter. I have mentioned the Simon Ekpa's matter. We recall that Simon Ekpa's matter went to court a few months ago, I think at the beginning of the year. And in less than 1 year, the matter is decided and Simon knows his fate, and Simon perhaps will go on appeal. And if it took very little time to try him, then it will also take little time to hear the appeal. In this country today, appeals stay for up to 5, 6, 7 years. If your appeal is decided in 3 years, that means your matter is very lucky. If even after council have filed all that needed to be filed, it still takes a lot of time before the appeal is heard. And sometimes you don't also blame the judges. It is because they are being overworked. You see, you go to a typical trial court in Lagos and you see that the judge could have as much as 30 cases on the first list to try. And other places you have 40, you have 20, and most times they are writing in longhand from morning till night. These are human beings. They're expected to be tired. So Nigeria knows what to do to the justice system. I have said that the legislature enjoys so much budgetary allocation and also enjoys technology. The executive also enjoys technology. But a typical courtroom in Nigeria is devoid of technology. And that's why the judge is still writing in longhand. How are we talking now and we're not writing and yet it is recorded? It can be played back. The same technology can be brought into the courtroom, and the technology of recording is not a new technology. So you would wonder why courts in Nigeria still write in longhand, and judges will have to go for operation to operate their fingers because they have been writing for so long, longhand. And when you travel to other countries of the world, whenever I travel out, I take a day or two and sit in a court of that country. In most of the countries I have gone to, technology is fully deployed to the courtrooms and the judges are not writing in longhand. And that is why some lawyers have been called upon to go to the bench and they say no in this country because for them, they will not be able to cope with the kind of working environment that judges are subjected to. So I call for, budgetary provision. Do we have judicial autonomy? If we do not have, let us give that autonomy to the judiciary and make sure that funds are allocated to them and that the judiciary should also be accountable to the Nigerian people. Because it's not just about the Nigerian people asking for funds to be allocated, and at the end of the day, we do not see statement of accounts, giving us details of the expenditure of the judiciary. Just as we expect details of expenditure of other arms of government, we also expect details of expenditure of the judiciary. How were contracts awarded? Was it through bidding? If it wasn't through bidding, why? And so on. I think that if these things are fixed, then the Nigerian justice system, remember that this is a country that has sent judges abroad. We have so many of our judges that had gone to West African countries to adjudicate matters for those countries. That says something about Nigeria, that we have competent officers in the justice system that can deliver justice. Okay, so what we need to do is to ensure that we fix the things that needs to be fixed, and we also have to look at the recruitment process. Let the woman in Wuse markets who has been selling periwinkle, who has been selling, vegetable, and has been able to train her child to school, and the child becomes a lawyer, and the child is qualified by the Constitution to be appointed a judicial officer. Let us have a situation where that woman's child can be appointed a judicial officer. When the woman knows nobody in politics.
Yes.
If we have that, then we'll be able to have the best crop of persons and those that are willing to work, becoming judicial officers, and then doing the work of the judiciary and keeping this country
great point you've raised. Yes.
In the democracy that we have.
Yeah, Mr. Kamini raised. In fact, you've gone another way now that we don't have time to explore. That had to do with the issue of the wives and children of politically exposed persons being populated in the bench, including senior judicial officers having their own children, follow that line, which has become a contentious issue sometime about competence as against exposure and all of that. But Omar, thank you for your insight as far as this issue is concerned. It's not done. We continue to speak about our institutions to make the most of it. Ekemini Udim is a legal practitioner who joined us virtually. Thank you, sir, for your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me.